Hello and thanks for stopping by the channel. We are at the month of October, and I'm planning on playing horror games for the rest of the month. This year we're going to start with the game Geist for the Nintendo Gamecube. It's sort of a horror game. You get to play a ghost. Geist was developed by InSpace and was released back in 2005, and I really didn't know much about this title before I started playing it. It was just a game that I heard mentioned on the Scott the Woz channel a lot. Apparently it's a more mature type of GameCube game, which generally means there's going to be some gore and some violence, so I popped it in to give it a try. This game was released back from a time when stories didn't really need to be too logical. In a lot of ways, those stories kind of felt like they were just something that tied gameplay elements together. Like that, this one is a little bit like that, I guess, and it's a little out there. The basic long and short of it is this. You infiltrate a base to retrieve some sort of data on some type of virus. During this sort of retrieval, you're captured and they experiment on you. This causes you to sort of become a different type of being. Basically, they separate your spirit from your body and you're a ghost. You can float around, draining things of energy, and you can possess things, objects, and people. This is basically the main mechanic of the game, or at least the thing that makes it stand out. To take control of people, or creatures, you have to put them in a scared state first, which you could do by maybe possessing something nearby, maybe an object, and making that object blow up or move around, make noise, stuff like that. Once your target gets scared, you can possess the target, and then you can use that person to go around and mess with things. If you were just a ghost floating around, your life will slowly drop as you float around. This is kind of your ticking clock, but it's relatively lengthy. You can also stop and drain energy from like office plants that are kicking around, and that'll recharge you. There are tons of plants, and there's not that much opportunity to sort of die in this fashion, but it is something you have to pay attention to. When you die, if you've possessed a character, the character is going to die. But if there's another potential host in the area, you just become a disembodied spirit, and you can keep going, trying to possess somebody else. I think this actual mechanic is kind of fun, and it actually goes into more depth than I really expected. You can possess a dog at one point. You can possess a rat. There's a bat, a motorcycle, a television, a garbage can, lights, a mirror. There are tons of things that you can possess in the game as you're progressing forward, and it helps keep this one interesting. But there are a few things that stick out as unfortunate for this game. The first thing that really stands out, there is no jump option. And I think that is a real bummer. You just can't jump over things. And I know this was from an era where first-person shooters having a jumping mechanic wasn't really standard. But if that was here, it would be great. Also, your ammunition, unfortunately, is unlimited. You don't have to pick up any clips. You do need to reload, but when you have unlimited ammunition, you tend to be less conservative. I think it would have been proper to add this as a mechanic. I think it's an important one. If you had limited ammunition, it would have upped the difficulty considerably. You'd have to ration things. I think that's important for a shooter. I am happy to say that you can configure the layout of your joystick to a certain extent, but you can't seem to adjust the aiming stick sensitivity. That's one thing I really would have wanted. But as far as the gameplay goes, being a disembodied spirit floating around, as you would imagine, this is kind of a superpower. It's fun. Being able to possess people or things, and these are things you can actually do in the middle of a fight. You can actually jump out of a possessed body, and you can, when you do, it goes into this slow motion routine, and during this time, you can use this to get around and get ahead of the problem. The first time this really happened for me was, I think, at the first boss fight when I realized this. There's this guy that's shooting at you, and every now and again he tries to throw a grenade at you. If you can manage to shoot him at the right time, he's going to drop the grenade in front of himself. When he drops the grenade, you dispossess the person you're in. You fly over in slow motion, you possess the grenade and make the grenade explode. Then you float back and repossess your original host to continue the fight. You go back and forth. It's a really clever way to use this ability, and I really like it. It definitely makes certain fighting scenes a bit trickier, because things are suddenly not just as simple as pulling a trigger. As far as handling goes, I think it's okay overall. It's just nothing exceptional. There's also not a ton of realism to the way that these levels are constructed. I've mentioned this type of thing in other videos before. The maps here, they're just maps. Yeah, it says you're on a base, but the way this base is laid out, the number of rooms it has, this isn't something you'd see in the real world. It just doesn't have enough stuff in it for people to live and work. They have little bits and pieces of things, but it isn't quite realistic. They're just there to facilitate you having an opportunity to use these ghost powers. Of course, you're going to uncover bits of the story over time. You get to rescue a teammate, and ultimately you're working to try to get your body back. You would imagine, because they experimented on you, you weren't the only one. There are a lot of weird things going on, and you're just caught in the middle. I don't think this game necessarily feels as good as some of the other games that I've played in the system, but it's pretty solid overall. I guess as far as horror games go, maybe it's a little mild on the horror side. You are piloting a ghost, but it's not like there are a ton of overt scares that they're going for. I suppose for the GameCube, it's solid enough, but maybe not as horrific or clever as a game like Eternal Darkness, which I thought was excellent. It's definitely fun to play. Possessing all these different things and making your way through is a lot of fun, but it's not like there's also that much of variety to the experience. Overall, this is relatively linear, and there aren't a lot of different ways to solve the same puzzle. Once you know what to do, that's what you do. There's a puzzle in front of you, it's got to be solved. The next time you go through the game, you're going to have to solve the same puzzle. I guess if this game was a little more far-reaching, if it had more of an open-world feel or variety to it, I think it'd be quite good. As it is now, it's decent. It would just be that much better if it was bigger. Conceptually, I love what they're doing here, and I guess I'm also a little surprised this one hasn't gone on to have sequels. I can certainly see this being the type of game that horror fans would gravitate towards. Getting to possess a person to manipulate yourself through the different battles, I think that'd be really popular. Well, popular with me anyway. Well, that's all I have today for Geist for the Nintendo GameCube. If this is your type of video, please feel free to like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and thanks for stopping by to take a look. Hope to catch you on another video.